Every empire swears its wealth is untouchable. They point to their gold, their vaults, their shining coins, and they say, "This is power, this is permanence, this will never fail." But history tells a darker story. Even gold, the so-called eternal metal, has failed. And when it failed, empires that seemed unstoppable suddenly crumbled into dust. This isn't just about money, it's about trust. It's about what happens when the one thing people believe is unshakable suddenly loses its meaning. And when that happens, armies collapse, markets vanish, and ordinary families wake up to find that the treasure they thought was eternal is worth no more than dirt. Rome is the first great warning. For centuries, its coins were more than money, they were symbols. Gold and silver stamped with the emperor's face carried the weight of an empire. A Roman soldier could take his pay across the known world and buy bread, wine, shelter. The coins worked because everyone believed in them, but belief has limits. Endless wars, corruption, and debt forced emperors to cheat. They shaved the coins, stretched the gold thinner, mixed it with base metals. At first, no one noticed, but then, whispers started. Merchants weighed coins suspiciously. Soldiers demanded higher pay. Ordinary Romans watched as their savings lost value year after year. Inflation soared, and suddenly the coins in people's hands didn't feel like gold anymore. They felt like lies. And when Rome's money died, its empire followed. The Byzantines were supposed to be smarter. They had seen Rome collapse. They swore they wouldn't repeat the mistake. Their gold solidus was the pride of the medieval world. Pure, heavy, reliable. For 600 years, it was the closest thing to a global reserve currency. Merchants trusted it from Constantinople to Cairo, from Venice to Baghdad. But power breeds temptation, and by the 11th century, even Byzantium gave in. The solidus was quietly diluted. At first the changes were invisible, then cracks spread like lightning. By the time anyone admitted the truth, the coin that had anchored the empire's power was just another empty promise. Trade slowed, confidence evaporated, and when enemies came knocking, the empire had no economic backbone left to resist. The walls of Constantinople did not fall because of cannons alone. They fell because its gold had already betrayed it. And this wasn't only Europe's curse. Across the Islamic world, the gold dinar was once a shining standard. It tied together cities from Spain to Persia, fueling science, art, and prosperity. But as caliphates fractured, rulers minted their own versions. Purity slipped, credibility vanished. A coin that once symbolized unity became a patchwork of distrust. Trade faltered, wealth scattered. The golden age dimmed, not only from invasions or politics, but from the slow death of money itself. The Mughal Empire tells the same tale. In Akbar's time, gold coins were stable, trusted, and beautiful symbols of a mighty empire. But by the 18th century, chaos reigned. Regional rulers issued their own debased coins. The empire's one solid currency fragmented into confusion. Merchants stopped trusting Mughal money. Foreign traders demanded silver or European currency instead. Gold, once the glue of the empire, was now a liability. And when money fails, power fails. The British did not conquer a united, wealthy empire. They conquered one already rotting from within, betrayed by its own currency. But here is where history twists the knife. Gold doesn't only fail by being diluted. Sometimes it fails by being worshipped. For centuries, nations swore by the gold standard. They believed it was the ultimate safeguard. That tying paper money to gold was the secret to eternal stability. But the Great Depression proved them wrong. The world clung to gold as if it was sacred, but that worship turned to poison. Deflation gripped economies. Banks collapsed. People lined up outside closed doors, begging for their savings. Governments were paralyzed by the chains of gold, unable to print the money needed to stop the bleeding. When Roosevelt finally broke the link in 1933, it was treated as heresy, but that heresy saved the system. The golden rule had become a golden trap. And yet, even after that, people still whisper that gold is the one thing that can never betray us. But history shows otherwise. Gold can be corrupted. It can be abandoned. It can lose its role overnight, not because the metal changes, but because trust shifts. The truth is brutal. Gold was never power. It was only ever a story. A story people believed until they didn't. What survives when the story ends? Not paper promises. Not golden coins. The survivors are always the ones who held what couldn't be faked. The Roman soldiers who demanded grain instead of debased coins. The Byzantine merchants who hid wealth in land. The Depression-era families who still had farms when banks froze. Real value food, land, skills, production always outlasts illusions. That is the haunting lesson. Every empire said their wealth was eternal. Every empire trusted their gold. And every empire watched it fail. Gold shines until it doesn't. And when the shine fades, empires fall. So the question isn't whether gold has power. The question is whether you can recognize what holds value when it doesn't. Because collapse doesn't just erase wealth, it transfers it. From those who trusted illusions to those who prepared for reality. And when the next collapse comes in, it always comes. You don't want to be left clutching the illusion. You want to be holding something real. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History doesn't just explain the past, it warns us about the future.